Hey guys, tonight we're going to take a journey back in time to one of the quietest, most laborious places you can imagine, the ancient Egyptian tomb sites. Picture yourself standing in the dry desert heat as the low hum of a distant river fills the air. The work site is bustling, but somehow everything feels slower, more deliberate, almost like you've slipped into a trance as the tomb builders move quietly around you. You might even catch the occasional glance of a worker wiping their brow. But there's something strangely peaceful about it all, despite the exhaustion. You probably won't survive a single day if you tried to take on their work. Let's face it, even the thought of digging and hauling stones under the Egyptian sun is enough to make you want to crawl back into your bed. But for these builders, this was their routine, day in and day out, as they created the grand burial sites that would house kings, queens, and nobles for millennia. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know where you are right now and what time it is. Curious to see how far we're drifting tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice as you arrive at the site is the quiet hum of activity. Even though there are dozens of men working, lifting stones, smoothing walls, and arranging bricks, the sound isn't what you'd expect. No shouting, no frantic running about, just the soft scrape of tools against rock and the rhythmic thud of stone hitting the earth. The builders work with a kind of calm precision, each action deliberate and mindful. You're far from the usual chaotic construction zone. You can almost feel the quiet sense of purpose hanging in the air. A typical day for an Egyptian tomb builder started early, just as the sun was creeping over the horizon. You and the workers gather at the riverbank, preparing for the long day ahead. The Nile, that lifeblood of Egypt, flows gently nearby, its cool waters a stark contrast to the heat that will soon bear down on the workers. You'd dip your hands in the water to cool off, trying to steal a moment of peace before the relentless work begins. But the heat soon catches up, and the day starts in earnest. You'd spend the next several hours hauling stones from the quarries, carving intricate details into tombs, or stacking bricks into the pyramid-like structures that would eventually house the dead. And while all this sounds incredibly intense, and it is, there's something strangely calming about it. The rhythm of the work, the repetitive motions, the sense of purpose. It's almost meditative. Imagine spending hour after hour smoothing stone, with nothing but the occasional command from the foreman to break the silence. It's a stark contrast to the bustling markets or crowded temples of ancient Egypt, and in that solitude, you start to understand why tomb builders might have found peace in their labor. Even the slaves, or the workers who were less privileged, seem to have a certain dignity in the way they move, focused entirely on their task. Historians still argue whether these workers were treated with the utmost respect, or if the labor was grueling beyond belief. But it's clear that their work was seen as vital to the country's spiritual life. The tombs they built weren't just for the living. They were a crucial part of the afterlife. But the question that's often asked is, what was the secret to the calmness at these sites? Was it the structure, the steady rhythms of work? Or was it the knowledge that they were creating something so powerful, so important, that the very walls of the tombs might outlast even the mighty pharaohs themselves? As you continue your walk along the tomb-building site, the vastness of the Nile River stretches out before you, providing a constant reminder of the life-giving force that supports every brick laid in place. The workers seem at home here, almost in tune with the landscape. There's an eerie quiet to the surroundings, and it's easy to imagine the rhythm of their work blending with the flow of the river. Each stone, each motion in perfect harmony with the land. You can practically hear the trickle of water in the distance, gently lapping at the banks. The Nile is a lifeline to Egypt, and its influence extends far beyond just irrigation. It's a constant companion to the builders who rely on its flow, and it shapes nearly every aspect of their daily routine. You take a moment to pause and reflect on the landscape. The river is more than just water. It's everything. It's the food, the water for their homes, the route for trade, and a key part of the spiritual life that permeates the lives of the workers here. Every morning, the builders gather by its banks, gathering their supplies, dipping their hands in the cool water, and readying themselves for another day of construction. The sacredness of this river can't be overstated. The ancient Egyptians saw the Nile as a gift from the gods, especially the god Hapi, who was believed to control the annual flooding that enriched the soil. The river was a divine force, and the workers weren't just building tombs. They were constructing eternal resting places in the heart of that divine flow. Historians still argue about the exact role the river played in the lives of these workers. Some suggest that the very act of hauling stones from the riverbanks was a symbolic gesture, a physical manifestation of the river's power. Others point out that it might have been a simple matter of practicality, with the river serving as the most efficient route to transport heavy materials to the tomb sites. Regardless of the true motive, the presence of the Nile is inescapable. Its influence on the construction, the workers, and even the spiritual significance of the tombs can't be denied. Now, imagine being a worker at the site, lifting your tools and getting ready for another long day under the sun. The heat from the desert air feels like it's pressing down on you from all sides, but it's the rhythm of the day that keeps you moving forward. Each task is part of a greater plan, a step closer to building the magnificent tomb that will house the deceased and accompany them into the afterlife. But there's something else about this place that's different. The air feels charged with something more than just the promise of completing a day's labor. There's a hum of energy here that seems to emanate from the very ground beneath your feet, as if the land itself is imbued with ancient power. As you look around, you notice the workers taking moments to pause, catching their breath, leaning against a stone for a brief rest. Their tools are simple: wooden mallets, chisels, and other implements that would have looked rudimentary to modern eyes. Yet in their hands, they become instruments of creation. With every stroke of the chisel, every tap of the mallet, these workers are carving out history, literally and figuratively, shaping the stone into intricate carvings of gods, pharaohs, and scenes from daily life. Each image is more than just decoration. It's a prayer, a ritual act meant to ensure that the deceased would have a prosperous journey into the afterlife. As the day stretches on, the rhythm of the work becomes soothing, almost hypnotic. The workers here are in their own kind of trance, caught between the world of the living and the spiritual realm. There's something calming about the repetition of the tasks, the way each stone is carefully placed, the way the walls of the tomb slowly begin to take shape. You can almost hear the hum of the work blending with the sounds of the river and the wind, creating a serene backdrop to the laborious task of tomb construction. And yet, for all the tranquility of the scene, there's a certain level of tension. You realize that while the builders are at peace with their work, there's still a sense of anticipation. These tombs aren't just for decoration. They are meant to ensure immortality. The builders know that their work will be seen for centuries, and that every detail, every carving, every brushstroke on the walls will serve a greater purpose. Historians still debate how aware these workers were of the full scope of their role. Some say that the workers were simply following orders, focused solely on the task at hand. Others believe that many tomb builders saw themselves as part of a divine mission, creating sacred spaces that would serve as eternal homes for Egypt's most important figures. Either way, it's clear that the sense of reverence for the task was deeply ingrained in their daily routine. The work site itself is much more than just a physical location. It's a carefully structured space that reflects the spiritual significance of the tomb-building process. As you stroll across the sandy expanse, the layout becomes clear. Everything is purposeful. Everything is aligned with the divine principles that guided ancient Egyptian life. The main tomb structure is positioned near a series of smaller chambers, where workers gather and prepare the materials. Each section of the site seems to have its own rhythm, its own unspoken order, creating an atmosphere of quiet efficiency. There's a peacefulness in the air here, as though every element of the site is harmonized with the cosmic order of the universe. One of the first things you notice as you step onto the site is how everything seems to be in its place. The stones are organized in neat rows, stacked precisely for the next phase of construction. The smaller tools are laid out in an orderly fashion, and even the workers themselves seem to fall into their assigned positions without much chatter. There's no rushing here, no sense of chaos. Everything is done with a kind of quiet grace. Workers seem to know exactly what their job is, and they move with a calm confidence, as if they have been preparing for this moment their whole lives. As you observe the workers, you can't help but notice the sense of pride they seem to take in their work. There's no frantic energy, no frantic scrambling to finish ahead of schedule. Everything is taken one step at a time. But don't mistake this for laziness. No, these workers are masters of their craft, moving in deliberate motions, creating the tombs with great care. As you move closer, you see that even the smallest details are attended to. A carving of a god here, a series of hieroglyphs there, every inch of the tomb meticulously planned. Historians still debate the degree of supervision and direction the workers received. Some believe that each team of builders had a foreman who ensured everything was up to par, while others speculate that the workers were allowed a certain level of creative freedom, making small adjustments to the design as they went along. Whatever the case, the tombs were far more than simple burial places. They were intricately designed spaces meant to help the deceased transition into the afterlife with grace, ensuring that the gods would look favorably upon them. But the design of the worksite itself also has a deep spiritual significance. The alignment of the tombs and the careful placement of materials are believed to follow the ancient Egyptian concept of ma'at, a term that encompasses the concepts of order, balance, and justice. Each tomb was constructed to ensure the deceased would enter the afterlife in the most orderly and peaceful way possible. The very act of building these structures was, in itself, an act of honoring the gods, reinforcing the cosmic order that ruled both life and death in ancient Egypt. As you stand in the center of the site, you realize that there's something almost meditative about the way everything is arranged. The steady, methodical progress of the tomb's construction mirrors the natural cycles of the world around you. The workers don't seem rushed or anxious. They move with the ebb and flow of the earth itself, creating something that will last long after they've passed from this world. The idea of the afterlife permeates the entire atmosphere. For the workers, their labor isn't just a means to an end. It's a spiritual journey of its own. The tomb isn't just for the dead. It's a bridge between this world and the next. The workers aren't simply laying stones. They are laying the foundation for eternity. As each stone is placed, as each symbol is carved, The tomb grows not just in size, but in spiritual significance. Of course, not every worker here is an artist, and not everyone is creating fine carvings or delicate hieroglyphs. Some are responsible for moving heavy blocks, others for mixing mortar or laying foundations. But even these tasks carry weight. They contribute to the greater purpose of the tomb, making sure that everything fits together seamlessly. Whether their task is small or large, each worker is part of something grander than themselves. And in that sense, every person here is connected by a shared goal, a quiet, steadfast commitment to creating a sacred space that will transcend time. As you walk the site, you begin to notice the subtle touches that have been added over the years. Perhaps it's the way the sun hits a particular stone just so, casting a long shadow across the worksite. Or maybe it's the faint sound of tools tapping against stone, echoing across the desert air. These small moments speak to the timelessness of this work. As the sun sets behind you, the tomb site takes on an ethereal glow. The work may be slow, the hours long, but there's a sense of satisfaction in knowing that this place, this tomb, will one day stand as a testament. It's around midday now, and you're starting to feel the heat of the Egyptian sun on your skin. The workers, unfazed, continue their tasks with unwavering concentration. If you were to ask any of them how they manage to work through the heat, they'd probably just shrug and get back to their work. But there's more to this than mere physical endurance. The Egyptians had learned to use their environment to their advantage in ways that modern workers could only dream of. They had rituals, tools, and even food that were all part of a system designed to help them endure the punishing heat and long hours. You can see the workers taking short breaks, dipping their hands into the cool water of the Nile. The water isn't just a source of life, it's also a form of relief. They drink from it when they can, and sometimes they even splash their faces or soak their feet. But there's a ritual aspect to this as well. Many workers carry small clay pots filled with a substance you don't immediately recognize. As they pass the river, they pause to anoint themselves with this oily, thick paste. It's a mix of crocodile dung and oil, yes, crocodile dung, used as a primitive form of sunscreen. The workers rub it on their exposed skin to protect themselves from the sun's harsh rays, a practice that sounds unpleasant, but was an essential part of their survival. Historians still debate how widespread this practice was. Some suggest it was a common remedy for all who worked under the harsh sun, while others argue it was reserved for certain workers or even specific regions. But there's no denying its practicality. The Egyptians were resourceful, using what they had at their disposal to stay safe in the unforgiving heat. It's a bit of an oddity to think that the ancient Egyptians, with all their advancements in art, architecture, and science, relied on such a humble and somewhat unpleasant substance to protect their skin. But in a way, it highlights their ingenuity. After all, it's not the tools we would consider modern that matter the most, but how well they served the needs of the workers at the time. As the day goes on, you notice that there are a few workers who seem to take their rest more seriously than others. They're not simply pausing for a quick drink of water or to wipe the sweat from their brows. They sit down, lean against the walls of the tomb, and close their eyes for a few moments. This isn't mere laziness. It's a form of recovery. Even in ancient times, people understood the importance of taking care of the body when performing strenuous work. The Egyptians had long recognized the need for rest and rejuvenation, and it's reflected in their architecture too. These workers aren't just builders, they are athletes in their own right, knowing that the quality of their labor relies on the health of their bodies. When you look at the tombs being built, it becomes clear that the physical work is demanding. But it's not just about brute strength. Precision is key. The stones, often massive, have to be carefully shaped and placed with the utmost accuracy. One wrong move could ruin days of hard work. And while there's no rushing, the need for focus is constant. The workers are, in many ways, perfectionists. They take pride in their work, even as they sweat under the heat of the sun. The tools they use are simple, yet effective. Wooden mallets, chisels, and scrapers, all designed to work in harmony with the stone. Each blow, each scrape, is part of a long-standing tradition of craftsmanship that has been passed down through generations. Historians still argue about how much training the workers underwent before they were allowed to take part in such important tasks. Some suggest that workers were trained from a young age, starting with small tasks that allowed them to gain the necessary skills. Others believe that many workers learned on the job, gaining knowledge and expertise as they worked. Regardless of the method, there's no question that these builders were skilled artisans, each contributing their unique abilities to the project. Even the way the tombs were constructed shows a deep understanding of both art and science. The workers knew that the tombs had to withstand the test of time. The walls, for example, were not just decorative. They had to be durable. They needed to last through centuries, surviving the ravages of time, weather, and human interference. This required an intimate knowledge of the materials they were working with, knowledge passed down over generations, from one builder to the next. Yet, for all their skill and knowledge, there is a sense of mystery surrounding the workers' lives. How much did they truly understand about the tombs they were building? Did they know the full importance of their work? Were they aware that, in a few thousand years, these very tombs would still be admired for their grandeur and craftsmanship? Historians are still uncertain. Some believe that the workers had a deep spirit. As the sun begins to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the desert, you notice that the workers' pace slows ever so slightly. It's not exhaustion that's creeping in, but a collective sense of reverence, an unspoken acknowledgement that the workday is winding down. The air cools, and a gentle breeze begins to stir, rustling through the stones and creating a quiet hum, almost like the tombs themselves are sighing after a long day's work. The builders take this change in the atmosphere as a cue. They begin to clean up, not hastily, but with a quiet respect for the space they've been shaping throughout the day. Before they leave the site, however, they pause for a brief ritual. Some workers gather by the Nile for one final drink of water, while others stand facing the river, their hands raised in quiet prayer. It's a small but meaningful ritual, a way of showing gratitude for the day's work and honoring the gods who have watched over them. The river, which has sustained them all day, is also a conduit to the afterlife. For these workers, the boundary between the physical and spiritual worlds is thin. The act of building tombs isn't just a job, it's a sacred calling. It's at this moment, as the last of the day's golden light fades, that you get a clearer sense of the scale of what these workers were truly creating. The tombs themselves may be impressive, but the workers have left a legacy in the details. The careful inscriptions, the symbolic carvings, and the sense of tranquility that seems to radiate from the site. The tomb isn't just a structure, it's a living testament to the Egyptian belief in life after death. Every inch of the tomb is a prayer for the deceased, and every prayer is reinforced by the workers' unwavering dedication. Historians have often speculated that these workers weren't just constructing physical spaces. They were, in a way, creating a kind of spiritual architecture. The design of the tomb was meant to be a pathway for the soul, a structure designed to guide the deceased on their journey into the afterlife. But the workers, too, were guided by something something deeply ingrained in the culture they were part of. Many scholars believe the workers viewed their labor as a kind of spiritual service, a means of ensuring that the deceased would have safe passage to the afterlife. Their role wasn't simply one of manual labor, they were stewards of the sacred. Yet, despite their contribution, the workers were rarely celebrated. While the pharaohs and the elite were honored with elaborate monuments and tombs, the builders remained largely anonymous. Historians still debate whether the workers even saw themselves as part of a larger spiritual framework, or whether they viewed their work purely as a job. Some argue that they were fully aware of the spiritual significance of their task, while others suggest that they saw themselves as mere laborers, fulfilling a contract and doing the work that was expected of them. But one thing is clear: their legacy lives on, not just in the tombs they built, but in the very act of creation itself. As you leave the worksite and the workers begin to head home for the night, you're struck by the quiet reverence that lingers in the air. The workers don't need to speak to one another. The weight of the day's labor is understood in the way they move, in the way they honor the land and the gods. Even the smallest gestures, a quick prayer, a quiet nod, speak volumes about the respect they hold for their work and for the tombs they are helping to build. And as the desert night falls, you can almost hear the whispers of the past, the sounds of chisels striking stone, and workers' murmurs seem to fade into the air, becoming part of the eternal landscape. The tombs, which will stand for millennia, are now the silent witnesses of the workers' devotion. They may never be remembered by name, but their contribution is eternal. The legacy of their craftsmanship, the quiet strength of their work, will outlive even the greatest of pharaohs. As you walk away from the site, you begin to understand that these workers, with their simple tools and humble ways, were part of something much bigger than themselves. They may not have known it at the time, but their hands built a bridge between this world and the next. A bridge that has endured for over 4,000 years. And as the night grows deeper, with the stars overhead, you feel a sense of peace wash over you. The tombs are not just monuments. They are the lasting echoes of a people who believed in the power of the afterlife, and who, through their labor, helped ensure that those who passed would never truly be forgotten. Night has fully descended now, and the tomb-building site is quiet, save for the occasional rustle of the desert wind and the distant croak of a frog by the river. The workers have long since made their way home to the small village nearby. You've followed them through the dusty paths that lead back to their homes, a modest collection of mud brick houses nestled along the Nile's banks. It's a far cry from the grandeur of the tombs they've been building all day. Yet this village is where their lives truly begin and end. The villagers, for the most part, live in relative isolation, separated from the cities and the centers of power, where the pharaohs and nobles live. But in a way, the builders are at the heart of ancient Egypt's spiritual and physical world. As you pass by the simple homes, you notice the quiet activity that fills their evenings. Some workers take their evening meals in the shade of their homes, sharing a meal of bread, onions, and dates. Others sit around fires, speaking in hushed tones as the smoke curls up into the cool night air. It's a simple life, but it's one that's steeped in traditions, passed down from generation to generation. These workers may have been laboring for the gods, but their lives were anything but easy. In fact, there is evidence to suggest that many of the builders lived in relative poverty. Though they were skilled, their status in society was far from high. They lived in small, humble dwellings, their homes often no more than a few rooms. Many of them worked on the tombs for months, even years, without much rest or reward beyond the satisfaction of their work. Historians still debate how much they were paid for their labor. Some believe they received a portion of food and drink, while others suggest they might have received a small wage or offerings for their service. Regardless, their payment was likely modest, especially when compared to the wealth and luxuries enjoyed by the nobility. Yet, in a way, this simplicity may have been intentional. In ancient Egypt, there was a belief that the more humble the worker's life, the closer they came to the gods. The physical labor they endured was seen as a purification of sorts, an offering of their body to the gods in exchange for blessings in the afterlife. The builder's hard work was seen as a way to balance the cosmic scales, ensuring that the tombs they constructed would be both enduring and sacred. It was a life of service, both to their fellow men and to the divine forces that governed their world. As you settle down in the village, the night becomes a time of communal rest. You can see small groups of workers gathered around, sharing stories and songs, the rhythm of their voices blending with the sounds of the crickets and the soft rippling of the Nile. The stories they tell aren't of grand battles or dramatic events. They are about life, love, and the world around them. They talk about the seasons, about their families, about the crops they've grown. These quiet, intimate moments are the heart of their existence. For them, the work on the tombs is not something distant or impersonal. It is deeply connected to their lives, woven into their culture and their understanding of the world. And yet, there is something spiritual about the way they live. Even in their quiet moments, there's a sense that they are part of a much larger plan. The tombs they build are not just for the pharaohs, they are for the gods as well. The workers themselves may not have understood it fully, but their daily lives, their work, and their rest were all part of a much larger cosmic order, one that stretched beyond their own lifetimes. It's almost as if every aspect of their existence was imbued with the idea of preparation for the afterlife. Historians still debate the extent to which these workers believed in the spiritual significance of their labor. Were they fully aware of their role in the cosmic scheme? Did they truly understand the profound importance of what they were doing? Or was it just another day's work to them? It's hard to say, but what's clear is that these workers, living in relative obscurity, were as much a part of the ancient Egyptian religious system as the pharaohs themselves. They were the ones who helped build the bridges to the afterlife, ensuring that the pharaohs and the elite could travel to the next world in style. But even though their lives were dedicated to the afterlife, the workers still found joy in the present. They enjoyed the simple pleasures of the everyday: food, family, rest, and community. The tombs they built were a way of preparing for what lay ahead. But the life they led, here and now, was no less meaningful. It was a life rich in small moments, in shared stories, and in a connection to the land and the people around them. As the hours slip deeper into night, the village becomes increasingly quiet. The workers drift off to sleep, their bodies resting in the modest homes that line the banks of the Nile. The night air, cool and still, carries the faint scent of the river, mingling with the smells of cooked food and burning wood. It's a soothing, peaceful atmosphere, a stark contrast to the bustling activity of the tomb-building site earlier in the day. But this tranquility, this moment of rest, is as essential as the labor itself. The workers, after all, can't continue their demanding tasks without the energy to do so. Their lives are a cycle, a delicate balance of hard work and restful moments, day in and day out. The stillness of the night is broken only by the occasional sound of a worker stirring in their sleep, shifting in the comfort of their woven reed mats. Some are likely dreaming of the tombs they've worked on. Images of hieroglyphs, stone walls, and the faces of the pharaohs they serve. But more than likely, the dreams are of simpler things: children playing, fresh bread baking, the faces of their families. In these quiet moments, the workers are reminded that their labor, while spiritually significant, is also deeply tied to their daily lives. In the early hours, the workers begin to stir, slowly rising from their rest. The sun hasn't yet begun to climb above the horizon, but the first light of dawn is already beginning to creep into the sky. The workers stretch, their muscles stiff from the previous day's labor, and prepare for the long day ahead. There's a rhythm to their lives, this steady progression from one day to the next, marked by the rising and setting of the sun, the cycle of labor and rest, work and renewal. Before the heat of the day arrives, the workers head out once more to the tombs. The air is still cool, and the light, soft and golden, casts long shadows over the construction site. The first thing the workers do is perform a brief ritual to honor the gods. Some of them kneel by the river's edge, dipping their hands into the water and offering a silent prayer. Others stand in a circle, heads bowed, before beginning the day's work. This ritual is not a grand affair. It is simple, quiet, and deeply personal, but it is a vital part of their daily routine. For the Egyptians, everything had spiritual significance, even the most mundane tasks. As the day progresses, the workers fall into a comfortable rhythm, their movements becoming almost automatic. Their hands are calloused from years of labor, and their bodies are shaped by the demands of the tombs they build. But there is something meditative in their work. It is not just about shaping stone. It is about bringing order to chaos, creating a space where the soul can find peace. Every stone they set, every chisel they wield, is an offering, a small act of devotion. It's in these moments of quiet labor that the true artistry of the workers shines through. Their work is not just a matter of brute force, it's about precision and care. The tombs, with their intricate carvings and hieroglyphic inscriptions, are a reflection of the workers' skill and attention to detail. They don't just build, they create. The design of the tomb is often quite complex, with chambers, passageways, and even false doors meant to trick thieves and protect the deceased from the dangers of the afterlife. Each decision is deliberate, each choice carefully made to ensure that the tomb will be both functional and sacred. But what about the materials they use? The stones, which come from quarries nearby, are not just picked at random. The workers know exactly which stones will be best suited for different parts of the tomb. Some stones are softer and easier to carve, making them perfect for inscriptions or detailed artwork. Others are harder and more durable, meant for the tomb's structure itself. The Egyptians understood these materials intimately, knowing that the durability of the tomb depended on using the right stone in the right place. It was a form of craftsmanship that combined both artistry and practicality, and it was passed down through generations of workers. Historians still argue about how the workers were able to achieve such precision in their work. The methods they used to cut, transport, and position such heavy stones are still a mystery in many ways. Some believe that the workers employed simple tools, such as copper saws and wooden levers, to shape the stones. Others suggest that they might have used more sophisticated techniques, like wooden cranes or ramps, to move the massive blocks. But what is clear is that the workers' craftsmanship was exceptional. Even after thousands of years, the tombs they built still stand as a testament to their skill and dedication. And yet, despite their remarkable craftsmanship, the workers themselves are often forgotten. We know the names of the pharaohs and the high priests, the architects and the scribes, but the workers, the men and women who did the labor that brought these tombs to life, are largely anonymous. It's a curious thing, considering that without their tireless work, the tombs would never have been built. Some historians suggest that the workers were considered too low in status to be remembered by history. Others argue that the workers themselves may not have wanted recognition, viewing their labor as a humble offering to the gods. But whatever the reason, the workers remain nameless figures in the grand narrative of ancient Egypt. As you watch the workers continue their labor under the rising sun, you realize that their contribution to the tombs is invaluable. Their skill, their dedication, and their quiet reverence for the task at hand have left an indelible mark on history. And though they may never be known by name, their work will live on for millennia, ensuring that the tombs and the pharaohs they served are never truly forgotten. The sun climbs higher, casting its harsh, relentless light over the tomb construction site. The air is thick with dust as the workers press on, chipping away at the stone, shaping the tombs with an almost rhythmic precision. Their bodies move in a fluid, synchronized dance as they work in teams, lifting massive blocks of stone, each one heavier than the last. Sweat beads on their brows, but there's no sign of fatigue. There's a steady determination in their movements, as if they are part of something larger than themselves, something that has been ordained by the gods. Every stroke of the chisel, every weighty block that falls into place, is another step toward completing their sacred mission. The heat of the day makes the labor even more grueling, but the workers are accustomed to it. They have worked in these conditions before and will continue to do so. In fact, there's a certain rhythm to the heat, an inevitability that they've come to accept. The sun, harsh as it may be, is also a source of life, and so too is the labor. To toil under its gaze is not just a physical act, it is a spiritual one. In the minds of the workers, the heat serves as a reminder that the gods too endure hardship. They carry their weight in the same way, showing patience and resilience in their task. But the heat is not the only challenge the workers face. As the day wears on, the air becomes thick with the smell of sweat, dust, and the burning incense that is offered to the gods. The workers' clothes, simple linen garments, are stained with the dirt and sweat of their labor. Yet, despite the discomfort, there's a sense of pride in what they do. They know that they are building something that will last for millennia, something that will carry the name of their pharaoh into the afterlife. For the workers, this is more than just a job. It is their contribution to eternity. You notice, too, the presence of the foremen who supervise the workers. These men, though no less involved in the physical labor, also bear the responsibility of ensuring that the project stays on schedule. Their job is a delicate one, balancing the needs of the workers with the demands of the pharaoh. A misstep, a delay, could be costly. The foremen know that their reputation, and possibly their lives, depend on the timely completion of the tombs. They move between groups of workers, offering brief words of encouragement or correction, but they do so with an air of quiet authority. Their role is not to dictate, but to guide, ensuring that the workers maintain their focus and precision. The foreman's tasks, though crucial, are far less physically demanding than those of the workers. They are often seen supervising from a distance, watching the labor unfold with sharp eyes. They are the ones who read the plans, sketching out designs in the dust or on scraps of papyrus. They are the ones who consult with the architects, who discuss the grand vision of the tombs. But unlike the workers, their efforts are not as intimately tied to the physical creation of the tombs. They are the organizers, the planners, and the overseers, ensuring that the work is progressing according to the pharaoh's wishes. As the day draws to a close and the shadows begin to stretch longer across the tombs, the workers start to slow. They gather their tools, their movements less urgent now. The physical toll of the day's labor is evident in their tired faces, but there is still a sense of quiet satisfaction in their eyes. The tombs are taking shape. The walls, once jagged and raw, are now smooth, the outlines of hieroglyphs beginning to appear. You can almost see the faintest glow of their future brilliance, waiting to be illuminated by the flickering torchlight of visitors centuries from now. Historians continue to debate the significance of these tombs. Was their purpose purely to honor the pharaohs, or were they part of a larger religious framework? Some argue that the tombs were built to serve as temples for the gods, places where the deceased could make offerings and seek protection in the afterlife. Others suggest that the tombs were designed as places of power, where the pharaoh's soul could reside in perpetuity, ensuring that the pharaoh's influence would continue long after death. Whatever the true purpose, one thing is clear. The tombs were meant to be more than just resting places. They were meant to be living, breathing spaces that transcended the physical world. As you observe the workers cleaning up for the night, you can't help but feel a sense of awe. These men and women, though their names will never be known to history, are the true creators of the tombs. They have poured their sweat and their spirit into these structures, and in doing so, they've become a part of something far greater than themselves. Their work is not just a reflection of their skill, but also a reflection of their belief in the divine order of the world. They are, in their own way, artists, craftsmen, and priests, all wrapped into one. And as the workers pack up their tools and head home, the tombs stand silently in the fading light. Tomorrow, they will return to continue the work. The cycle of labor, rest, and renewal will begin again. But tonight, there is peace. The workers know that the tombs they are building will stand for thousands of years, long after they are gone. And in the quiet of the night, as the stars twinkle above, they rest, knowing they have fulfilled their purpose. As the days pass, the routine of the workers becomes more fluid. The early morning hours, when the first light of day barely illuminates the edges of the Nile, are no longer a time of hesitation or grumbling. By now, it's almost instinctual for the workers to rise with the dawn, the anticipation of the work ahead, outweighing the grogginess of sleep. The village is quiet at first, but it doesn't take long for the sounds of movement to fill the air. The low hum of voices, the scuff of feet on dusty paths, the occasional clink of a chisel against stone. The tombs, which once stood as mere outlines against the sand, are beginning to emerge as monumental structures. The workers have learned to read the landscape of the tomb as easily as they read the sky above. They've grown intimately familiar with the shapes and forms of the tomb, understanding its needs almost instinctively. It's as though they've become one with the very stone they're shaping. The planning, the measuring, the careful thought put into the design. All of that is secondary now. The work has taken on a life of its own, moving steadily toward completion, its progress marked not just by the blocks of stone that pile up, but by the quiet satisfaction that fills the air. And while the work is demanding, it's not devoid of moments of unexpected levity. A stray comment here, a laugh shared between workers there. One can imagine a momentary relief from the heat when a cool breeze sweeps over the construction site. It's not just the monumental task at hand that occupies the workers' minds. It's the little things. One worker might recount a funny incident from the village. Another might poke fun at a fellow laborer's tendency to hum out of tune as they work. These moments of lightheartedness, though brief, are vital. They remind the workers that they are not just laboring for a divine cause. They are still human, still connected to one another in ways that transcend the tombs they're building. The sun continues its slow, relentless climb into the sky, the heat becoming more oppressive as the day goes on. Yet the workers remain undeterred, as though they've become accustomed to the heat, even welcomed it. There's something soothing about it, almost like the sun's rays are a companion in their labor. As the workers shift from one task to another, carefully carving intricate designs into the stone, you see them pause for a moment, hands smeared with chalky dust, their eyes scanning the delicate carvings they've just made. There's pride in their eyes, pride in the work, pride in the legacy they're creating. For a brief moment, they're not just laborers, but artists and builders of a lasting monument. You wonder if the workers realize just how significant their contributions are. Historians still debate the nature of their role. Were they simply fulfilling a necessary task in the great cycle of life and death? Or were they, perhaps, the true creators, shaping not just the tomb, but the very afterlife itself? As the sun begins to set, the work slows. The workers take a moment to step back and survey their progress. The tomb, now a collection of grand stone walls and intricate carvings, is beginning to look more like the sacred resting place it was meant to be. The delicate images of the gods, the pharaoh's journey through the afterlife, the representation of daily life, all of these elements are coming together in a way that is truly breathtaking. The workers can't help but admire their own work, the culmination of days, weeks, or even months of labor. It's not just about the finished tomb. It's about the process, the effort, and the quiet, steady dedication that goes into every part of the work. For a moment, the entire construction site seems to hold its breath, as if the tomb itself is waiting for something. The workers, their hands resting on their tools, stand in reverent silence, gazing at the tomb's progress. They know they are building something beyond their time, something that will endure long after they're gone. It's a humbling thought, but also one that brings a sense of peace. Their work, though anonymous, is part of something greater, a greater cycle, a greater purpose. They are not just builders of stone, they are caretakers of eternity. And as the last rays of sunlight dip below the horizon, the workers gather their things and begin the long walk back to their homes. The sounds of the construction site fade into the distance, replaced by the gentle hum of evening life in the village. Tomorrow, they will return, and the cycle will continue. But for now, there is rest. The tombs, still standing strong in the quiet night, wait in peace. The dawn of a new day arrives, much like the ones before, quiet, gentle, but filled with the promise of labor. The workers, now well into the rhythm of their task, wake as the first light stretches across the horizon. There's a deep comfort in the familiarity of it all. The same early morning sounds, the same cool air before the sun's brutal heat kicks in. The work is repetitive, yes, but it has a soothing quality. The workers are no longer just following commands. With each swing of the hammer, each delicate stroke of the chisel, they are shaping not just stone, but their own part of history. Today, however, something feels different. As the workers gather on the construction site, the usual chatter seems softer, more measured. There's a sense of anticipation in the air. The foremen are gathered in a quiet conversation with the architects, their heads bent over plans and drawings. Whispers float through the air tomb to be worked on today. This part is particularly intricate, involving not just the construction of walls, but the careful creation of an inner chamber meant to hold the pharaoh's most prized possessions. The workers have been told that this will be one of the most sacred spaces within the tomb. a place where the pharaoh's soul will rest alongside his most valued treasures, ensuring that his journey to the afterlife is as comfortable and successful as possible. The mood among the workers shifts as they hear this news. There is a collective understanding that this particular part of the tomb holds great significance, not just because of its physical design, but because of the spiritual weight it carries. For the first time, the workers are reminded of the larger purpose behind their labor. It's not simply about stone, mortar, and sweat. It's about the pharaoh's eternal journey and the role they play in it. The tomb, they now realize, is more than a resting place. It's a passage, a doorway between the world of the living and the afterlife. As the workers begin to gather their tools, there's a slight shift in their movements. They're more deliberate now, their steps more measured. It's almost as if they understand the weight of the work they're about to undertake. Some of the younger workers glance nervously at the intricate plans laid out on the ground, but the older, more experienced men reassure them. They've seen this before. The awe that comes with knowing that the task at hand is one of the most sacred things a person can do. The older workers smile knowingly, nodding to one another as they pick up their chisels. The younger men follow their lead, their initial hesitation melting away as they embrace the importance of their work. Today's task is no small feat. The chamber the workers will build is not just an ordinary room. It's meant to symbolize the pharaoh's passage into the next world. Every stone must be placed with precision, every detail carefully considered. The walls will be adorned with scenes of the pharaoh's life, his victories, his wisdom, his reign. The workers move with purpose, carving out the images of gods and goddesses, of animals and landscapes, all the while knowing that these images will stand for thousands of years, representing the pharaoh's legacy in the afterlife. For all the solemnity of the task, there's still room for moments of levity. A worker might mutter a joke about the heat, or another might comment on the odd way a particular stone is shaped. These small moments of humor, though brief, help to relieve the tension of the day. The workers laugh softly, their voices carrying over the sounds of chisels and hammers. Even in the midst of such serious work, there's a recognition that the human spirit needs moments of release. These brief, shared moments help to remind them of the camaraderie that binds them together as a team. As the day wears on and the heat begins to climb, the workers pause for a break. They sit together in the shade, resting their weary bodies and sipping from their water skins. The sense of unity is palpable. They are not just workers. At this moment, they are more like a family, sharing the burden of the work and the quiet satisfaction that comes with it. The tomb, which once seemed like a distant abstract concept, now feels more real, more tangible. It's a physical manifestation of their effort, their sweat, and their skill. And in a way, it's a tribute to them, too. Their hands have shaped it, their minds have guided it, and their spirits have imbued it with a sense of purpose. As the break ends and the workers return to their tasks, there's a collective energy in the air. The work is not just about completing the tomb. It's about creating something that will endure for centuries, something that will stand as a testament to the pharaoh's journey and the workers' contribution to that journey. They are building not just a tomb, but a legacy. And so, the day unfolds, the workers moving in steady rhythm, chisels striking stone, sweat glistening in the heat of the afternoon. The tomb grows taller, more magnificent, with every stroke of the hammer, every carving of the stone. The task is far from easy, but it's clear that the workers are united by more than just their labor. They are united by the significance of the work, the honor of shaping something that will stand the test of time. As the sun begins to dip lower in the sky, the workers take a moment to step back and admire their progress. The chamber is starting to take shape, the walls now adorned with carvings of gods and scenes from the pharaoh's reign. There's still much to be done, but for now, the workers allow themselves a brief moment of rest, standing together in the shadow of the tomb they are creating. It is not just a tomb. It is a monument to their skill, their dedication, and their quiet, lasting contribution to history. As night begins to settle over the construction site, the atmosphere shifts. The oppressive heat of the day gives way to a cool, almost refreshing chill, though the workers remain on edge. Despite the respite that the cooler air offers, there's a growing urgency to their work. The tomb is nearing completion, and with each passing day, the end of their labor draws closer. The realization that they are so near the finish line, yet still have so much to do, hangs heavy in the air. There's an unspoken energy that moves through the workers now, a mixture of anticipation and quiet anxiety. They know that this final phase of construction is the most critical. The tomb, which has been months or even years in the making, is almost ready to receive the pharaoh's soul. Every worker feels the gravity of the task they are completing, not just in terms of the physical labor, but also in the spiritual weight of what they're creating. Each stone that's placed, each carving that's added, is one step closer to honoring the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. As the workers gather around the site, their movements become more deliberate, more measured. The earlier camaraderie, the joking and laughter, has all but disappeared. There's a quiet reverence that fills the space now, a solemnity that reflects the significance of the work at hand. They no longer speak much, their words replaced by the rhythm of their chisels striking stone, the sound echoing through the cavernous tomb. The foreman, an older man with graying hair and a weathered face, walks among the workers, his eyes scanning the walls and chambers with a practiced gaze. He speaks little, but his presence is commanding. It's clear that his years of experience have earned him a sense of authority, a respect from the others. He moves with purpose, stopping occasionally to check the work of the younger laborers. His hand brushes over the walls, tracing the intricate carvings that depict the journey of the pharaoh. He nods approvingly at some, but at others he shakes his head, a quiet grunt escaping his lips as he motions for the workers to adjust their efforts. The task ahead is delicate, especially now. The inner chambers of the tomb, where the pharaoh's treasures will be stored, must be sealed in such a way that no air can enter, no light can disturb the eternal rest of the royal spirit. These chambers, often hidden deep within the tomb's winding passages, are a place of pure sanctity. The workers know this. They are not just constructing physical barriers, they are building a protective shield that will keep the pharaoh's soul safe for eternity. And that requires a level of care and skill that goes beyond simple craftsmanship. It's a spiritual act as much as it is a physical one. The evening passes slowly, the workers continuing their task under the fading light. Despite their weariness, there's a sense of satisfaction in the air. The tomb is shaping up beautifully, its walls adorned with intricate depictions of the gods and goddesses that will accompany the pharaoh in the afterlife. The chamber that is to hold the pharaoh's most prized possessions is now nearly finished, its walls standing strong and proud, as if ready to embrace the treasures that will soon fill it. The moon begins to rise high above the construction site, casting a soft, silvery glow over the work. For a moment, everything seems still. The workers pause, their chisels resting against the stone, as they take in the sight of the tomb. It's hard to imagine the pharaoh's journey, the sacredness of the task that has occupied their every moment. But at this very moment, in the quiet of the night, the tomb seems to take on a life of its own. It stands as a testament to all the work, all the hours, all the effort that has been poured into it. In the cool of the night, with the tomb nearly complete, there is a deep, calming sense of achievement. The workers know that they are creating something that will last for millennia, something that will transcend their time. The tomb is not just a structure of stone, it's a sacred vessel, a place where the pharaoh's spirit will rest in peace for eternity. The workers have given everything they have to build it. And now, with the tomb nearly finished, they know they have done their part. The moonlight flickers against the carvings, casting long shadows that stretch across the stone. It's a quiet, peaceful moment, a moment of reflection. The workers, though tired, feel a deep sense of connection to the work they've done, to the history they've shaped. They know that their names may never be written down in the annals of history, that their faces will not be immortalized in the tombs they've helped to create. But there is something far more powerful than that. The knowledge that, for generations to come, they will have helped to shape the very foundation of the pharaoh's eternal journey. The sounds of the night, distant animals, the soft rustling of the wind, fill the space around them. The workers, satisfied with the day's progress, begin to gather their tools, preparing to leave for the evening. The foreman gives one last look at the tomb, nodding in approval before turning to join the others. As they walk away, the tomb stands silently behind them, its shadows stretching across the sand, waiting for the final pieces to be put in place. The work will continue tomorrow, but for now, the workers can rest. They have done their part. The tomb is one step closer to completion, and with it, a legacy that will last for eternity. The days grow shorter now, as the final phases of the tomb's construction near their end. The workers, though weary, are filled with a quiet anticipation. There's no denying that the tomb they've labored on for so long is now a magnificent structure. The high stone walls, now fully adorned with painted scenes from the pharaoh's life, seem to glow in the sunlight. The sacred burial chamber stands ready to receive the royal remains. The carvings are delicate, almost ethereal in their beauty, depicting the gods that will accompany the pharaoh in his afterlife. The tomb is complete, or at least, nearly so. The finishing touches are now underway. You move through the site with a sense of awe, watching as the workers prepare for the most sacred task of all, sealing the tomb. This final act will ensure that the pharaoh's body and soul are protected from the elements for eternity. It's a moment of great reverence, not just for the royal figure, but for the workers who are about to put the last stone in place and close the door to the afterlife. The workers have spent months, maybe even years, building this sacred space, and the thought that their work will stand the test of time fills them with pride. But there is also a sense of finality. The tomb will soon be sealed, and the construction will be over. The air around them is thick with the weight of the task at hand. The workers are mostly silent today. The usual chatter has been replaced by a quiet focus, each man intent on the task that lies before him. The foreman walks around the site, checking the placement of the last few stones. His eyes flick over the walls, his hands brushing the carvings of gods, as if seeking some sign of approval from the spirits before the final seal is placed. His expression is serious, almost meditative. The final moments before the tomb is sealed are sacred, and he knows the significance of the ritual. He watches as the workers gather around, their movements synchronized, as if they are preparing for a ceremony rather than a construction project. There's a ritualistic quality to this moment, a slow and deliberate pace that feels almost reverent. The workers begin to position the massive stone that will serve as the tomb's seal. It's an enormous, heavy slab, meant to block any access to the inner chamber. Once it's placed, the tomb will be sealed for good. The workers, with the help of pulleys and ropes, guide the stone into position. The air is filled with the soft creak of the ropes, the gentle strain of muscles working together, the thud of stone against stone. The sun beats down on their backs, but no one notices the heat. All attention is focused on the task at hand. The stone slides into place with a deep, resonant thud. The workers step back, wiping the sweat from their brows, looking at what they've just done. The final seal has been set. It's a moment of triumph, but also one of quiet reflection. They know that this tomb will endure, that it will remain standing long after they're gone. The pharaoh's journey to the afterlife is now complete, and their part in it is done. But the work is not entirely finished. There are still smaller tasks to attend to. The workers now begin to gather the tools that have been scattered around the site. The chisels, hammers, and brushes are carefully packed away. But there is something almost ceremonial in the way they handle the tools now, as if each one has become sacred in its own right. The work that has been done is not simply physical labor. It has been a labor of devotion, a form of worship. As they prepare to leave for the day, the workers pause for a moment, standing before the tomb. There's a sense of pride in their posture, a collective recognition that they have completed something of great importance. The tomb may be silent now, sealed and secure, but the memory of the work will live on in the stories of the workers who built it. The pharaoh's journey is not just his own, it is also a journey shared by those who helped to create the space that will house his spirit. The workers, though their names will never be written in the annals of history, know that their contribution will echo through the centuries. As the last rays of sunlight dip below the horizon, the workers gather their belongings. There's no grand celebration, no feasting or fanfare, but there is a quiet sense of accomplishment. Tomorrow, they will leave the site behind, and the tomb will stand, a monument to their skill and dedication. As they walk away from the tomb for the final time, their steps are slow, almost reluctant. They have become part of the tomb's story, and though they will soon return to their families and their homes, the tomb will live on as a lasting testament to their labor. The tomb stands silently behind them, its massive stone seal in place, its walls adorned with intricate carvings that will withstand the ravages of time. The pharaoh's journey is complete, and the workers' role in it is done. The workers know that, for all they've built, and for all they've done, they've played a part in something much larger than themselves. And that thought brings with it a deep sense of peace. As night settles over the site, the workers head home, their minds at ease, knowing they have created something that will last for millennia. As the workers leave, the site begins to quiet down, but the tomb itself seems to pulse with an almost imperceptible life. The wind picks up slightly, rustling through the desert sands, sending whispers across the vast, empty stretch of land surrounding the tomb. There's a peaceful stillness in the air, and it feels like the tomb is finally resting, just as the workers have left it. The foreman lingers for a moment, his eyes scanning the site one last time. His role isn't yet finished, though the laborers have done their part. He knows that soon the tomb will be part of a larger, grander ritual. The great procession to carry the pharaoh's body from the royal palace to this very tomb will begin soon. But that, too, is part of a timeless tradition, one that will carry on far beyond this moment. The foreman steps away, letting the wind carry him towards the horizon, his mind shifting to other responsibilities. For now, it is not his hands that will shape the tomb, but the hands of the priests and the family. who will perform the rituals necessary to ensure the safe passage of the pharaoh into the afterlife. The tomb, now sealed, stands as a silent sentinel against the desert night. The massive stone that blocks the entrance remains untouched, though it is said that only the gods and those authorized by them will ever move it again. Over time, the winds will cover the tomb with a fine layer of sand, almost as though nature itself is pulling a blanket over the site to keep it safe from the elements. The desert, with its ever-changing tides of sand and heat, will guard this sacred place, but it will also serve as a reminder of the impermanence of human life. The tomb may stand for centuries, but one day, whether through natural erosion or human hands, it will crumble. But not today. The priests begin their preparations soon after the workers have left. They arrive at the tomb in the dead of night, their solemn procession lit only by the flickering light of oil lamps. The atmosphere is heavy, thick with the scent of incense and the murmured prayers of the priests. They're here to perform the last rites, the rituals that will protect the pharaoh's soul and ensure a smooth passage to the afterlife. The tomb, now sealed and empty, awaits the royal body to enter. There is something both sacred and eerie about the scene. The priests move carefully, almost reverently, as they perform the necessary ceremonies. They chant quietly, their voices weaving through the stillness of the desert night. The sound is soft, like a low hum, and it mingles with the rustling of the wind, creating a sense of timelessness. The tomb has become, in these final moments, more than just a burial place. It has become a bridge between this world and the next. The careful rituals that the priests perform are meant to ensure that the soul of the pharaoh finds its way through that bridge, with no interruption. Once the ceremonies are complete, the tomb is finally ready to receive the pharaoh's body. There's a brief but significant moment of pause. The workers, now finished with their labor, have left behind their tools and their fatigue. The priests, though tired from their efforts, take a moment to reflect on the importance of what they have just done. The tomb is no longer just a building made of stone and labor. It is a sacred space, filled with the weight of tradition, ritual, and respect for the gods. The body of the pharaoh will arrive soon. The workers may have completed their physical labor, but the final steps of this monumental process are far from over. The body will be carried carefully through the winding desert paths, brought to the tomb with all the honor and respect that the pharaoh deserves. The workers may have gone home, but their efforts have created something far more significant than a tomb. It is a gateway to the afterlife, a place where the pharaoh will continue his journey long after the workers are gone. As the priestly procession begins its march back into the night, the tomb stands there, perfectly still. The desert, which has always been a silent witness to life and death, watches over the tomb. It will stand through the ages, protected by the gods and the elements, a silent testament to the work, the faith, and the quiet reverence of all those who played a role in its creation. It is a place of finality, of rest, and of eternity. The workers will never see the tomb again, but they will live on through it, in a way. For their sweat and toil, their quiet dedication to a task far greater than any one individual, will outlast them. They will live on in the stories passed down through generations, in the reverence with which the tomb is remembered, in the shadows of the gods who accompany the pharaoh in his journey. As the desert night deepens and the stars above cast their distant light over the tomb, the site falls silent once more. The stone door has been sealed, the pharaoh's body is en route, and the workers' hands are no longer needed. All that remains is the tomb itself, standing tall and silent in the stillness of time. It will endure long after the world changes, a quiet monument to the labor of many, who came together to build a sacred place for the royal soul. The tomb is now sealed, and the final preparations for the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife are complete. The workers have gone home, and the priests have finished their sacred rites. The tomb stands alone in the stillness of the desert, its massive stone seal holding firm against any intrusion. The air around it is thick with the weight of what has just occurred, a transition from the physical to the spiritual. The tomb is no longer just a building. It is a symbol of eternity. But the work doesn't stop here. The tomb, though completed, is not yet finished in its purpose. It will continue to evolve, to adapt to the winds of time. The workers' hands may no longer shape the stone, but they have set something into motion that will outlast them all. The tomb will remain, its walls standing through the centuries, weathered by the desert sun, but still resolute. It will bear witness to the rise and fall of empires, to the shifting tides of history, and to the steady march of time itself. The tomb's true test lies not in the craftsmanship, not in the stones or the carvings, but in the legacy it leaves behind. It will endure, yes, but only because of the faith and dedication poured into it by those who created it. For the pharaoh's soul to rest peacefully, the tomb must be maintained. It will need to be protected, watched over by the generations that follow. In a world where time moves at a relentless pace, this is the true measure of success. The tomb will outlast the hands that built it, but only if the rituals are respected, the traditions honored, and the memory of those who crafted it is preserved. As the years stretch into decades, the tomb will slowly fade from the public eye, lost to the sands of time. The once vibrant carvings on the walls, which once told tales of the pharaoh's life and triumphs, will slowly become obscured by dust and decay. The tomb, though still standing, will be buried deeper by the shifting sands of the desert. The workers, long gone, will become little more than a memory, their names and faces lost to the ages. And yet, the tomb will remain, hidden, silent, but still there. Historians still argue whether the tombs of Egypt were ever truly meant to be opened again. Were they built with the idea that their contents would one day be discovered? Or were they meant to remain undisturbed, forever hidden from the world? Perhaps the workers themselves knew that their labor would one day fade into the shadows of time, but that didn't diminish the importance of the task they had undertaken. Their work was never about fame or recognition. It was about fulfilling a sacred duty, one that would resonate through the ages, even if no one knew their names. In the centuries that follow, the tomb will attract the curiosity of adventurers, treasure hunters, and archaeologists, all drawn by the promise of riches and the allure of the past. The tomb will stand as a symbol of ancient Egypt's glory, its grandiosity and mystery fueling the imaginations of those who seek to uncover its secrets. But for now, it sits silently in the desert, untouched, its purpose fulfilled. The world has moved on, but the tomb's significance remains. The winds of time will continue to blow across the desert, erasing the footprints of those who once walked this land. But the tomb will endure. And in the quiet shadows of the past, the laborers, the priests, and the pharaohs who shaped this place will live on. Not in names written in history books, but in the walls they built, the rituals they performed, and the legacy they left behind. As the tomb fades into obscurity, it becomes something more than just a place. It becomes a symbol of all that has been and all that will be. It is a reminder that even in the face of time's passage, some things endure. The work of the workers, the dedication of the priests, and the faith of the pharaoh all come together to create something eternal. And so, the tomb stands, a silent witness to the ages, holding its secrets and its stories, waiting for the day when they are rediscovered. For now, however, the tomb sleeps. The workers are gone, the rituals have been performed, and the tomb stands ready to fulfill its final purpose, to guard the pharaoh's soul for eternity. The wind blows across the desert, carrying with it the whispers of the past, but the tomb remains steadfast, a monument to all that has come before. And in the stillness of the night, under the silent gaze of the stars, the tomb rests, waiting for the next chapter of its long, eternal story. The tomb stands under the cold light of a distant moon, its stone walls gleaming faintly as the desert night wraps around it like a thick, comforting blanket. The winds have shifted, carrying the soft whispers of sand across the site, but nothing dares to disturb the sanctity of this resting place. The pharaoh's journey into the afterlife has long since begun, and the workers' tasks are but a distant memory, fading quietly into the endless horizon. What remains now is a tomb that will endure for centuries, a silent sentinel marking the boundary between the living and the dead. But the tomb isn't just a resting place for the soul of one ruler. It is a testament to the endurance of a civilization, to the unyielding faith and craftsmanship of those who built it. In this quiet desert, amidst the shifting sands and the echoing silence of time, the tomb will stand as an indelible mark of Egypt's greatness. The desert will shift, kingdoms will rise and fall, but this tomb will remain a witness to it all, a timeless reminder of the hands that built it and the legacy they left behind. Over time, the tomb will slowly become a myth itself. Generations of wanderers, adventurers, and explorers will seek it out, drawn by the mystery of what lies inside. Yet, much like the workers themselves, they will find nothing that can be claimed as personal treasure. The true riches of this tomb are not gold, not jewels, but the stories embedded in every carved relief, in every chiseled stone, and in the silent reverence of the space itself. Historians will argue, as they always do, about the tomb's significance and the meanings behind the intricate symbols adorning its walls. But the tomb will remain unspoken, a mystery wrapped in silence. It will speak not with words, but with its stillness. And as it does, the workers, whose names will never be known, will live on, not in the annals of history, but in the simple knowledge that they built something greater than themselves. Their labor was not for wealth, but for eternity. They crafted a space that would carry the soul of the pharaoh, yes, but also the spirit of an age, their age, into the future, untouched by the march of time. In a world where so much fades away, they created something that would endure. As the tomb sits in the heart of the desert, time continues its slow, inevitable march. The centuries pass, and the sands of Egypt shift once again, covering the tomb in a blanket of dust and mystery. Yet, within the stone walls, the heart of the tomb beats still. The pharaoh rests undisturbed, his journey through the afterlife continuing, while the tomb, still firm in its purpose, quietly guards his soul. The silence that surrounds it now is profound, not an emptiness, but a fullness, a quiet acknowledgement that what was built here is something that time cannot erase. There is comfort in this. In a world so easily swept away by the tides of change, the tomb will endure as a symbol of continuity. It holds within it the essence of human perseverance, the quiet devotion of countless workers, priests, and kings, all contributing to something far greater than any single individual. What was once a bustling, fevered site of labor, with the sounds of chisels striking stone, will transform into a place of peaceful solitude, waiting for the next visitors, perhaps archaeologists or wanderers, or perhaps no one at all. The tomb, now a forgotten relic, will be rediscovered by those who seek to uncover the past. But even then, it will remain as it always was, a silent, steadfast structure in the vast, undisturbed desert. As time marches on, the tomb will outlive the hands that built it. It will outlast empires, civilizations, and countless generations. And in the quiet dark of night, under the watchful gaze of the stars, the tomb will endure. Now, as the last traces of the workers' footprints fade, the pharaoh's soul drifts through the afterlife, as it was always meant to. The workers have done their part, their labor a quiet testament to their devotion. And the tomb stands, silent, eternal, and unyielding, holding its secrets, its stories, and the spirit of those who created it. The desert, as it always has, watches over the tomb. It carries no judgment, only the passage of time, and the gentle rhythms of nature that will continue for centuries to come. The tomb's story is one of endurance, of quiet devotion, and of a labor that will never be forgotten, even if its creators never had the chance to hear their names spoken aloud. And so, the tomb rests. Its secrets are safe. The workers are long gone, but their work remains. The tomb stands, eternal and undisturbed, a monument to the past, a place where time and memory converge, quietly enduring in the heart of the desert.